A new trend that's emerged in Japan, living funeral. So you have your funeral while you're still alive.
You should pinch some salt and apply it on your chest, on your back, and on your feet.
You specifically want to not use brand new bills. I was about to say the Klingons. These are terrible words to be using regarding a bunch of friends at a funeral.
Hey podcast kittens, it's Cathy Cat
and Ladybeard coming at you with a more somber than usual installment of
Cat with Beard.
We have a very somber, serious topic today, which is why we're keeping it a bit low-key for this introduction. What are we talking about, Cathy Cat?
Actually, it's like so low-key, I'm almost slightly surprised. You guys might be slightly surprised, but if you read the topic of the episode, you know why? Because our topic is funerals in Japan.
It's no laughing matter.
Yeah, and what you must not do. Okay. Similar if you had the time to listen to our Japanese weddings episode, there's a couple of things you cannot say and shouldn't really utter words you should not use and things you should not do and things you should do. So we're going to go and equip you with these things that you need to know. With some of them. If
you think about it, if Japanese daily life is so rigid and structured that you have all these rules that must be followed just to get a bottle of water, then when someone's passed away, you can imagine they're going to be very sensitive about the rules.
Exactly. And right now, Japan is a super aging population, which means right now this might actually be a lot closer to you than you think it is, because maybe the grandparents of someone or something, when you come to Japan, there might actually be the situation where you might get invited to a Japanese funeral. So let's equip you with some skills.
Have you attended a Japanese funeral?
No, but I will possibly second. There's apparently different stages. We're not talking about that in the script today, but there's a different stage where you then return the urn to where they come from, something like that. So there's a lot of things, and to be honest, we can't even cover all of this in one episode, but I think it's just good to know and have it under your belt. Hopefully you never have to attend a funeral, right. But if you guys do, there are a couple of things to look into before you go. All
right, so let's dig into it. So generally speaking, in Japan, funerals are Buddhist funerals, so they held with the Buddhist funeral rites.
It's interesting. It seems like usually, or with the freedom of religion that exists in Japan, you could, for example, have a wedding at a shrine and then a funeral at a Buddhist temple, and that is okay, and no one bats an eyelash about it. But generally, or the most common one, seems to be Buddhist.
And so on the day before the funeral, family and relatives will hold a ceremony called tsuya. And what happens is they spend their last moments with the person who's passed away. And what they need to do is they need to keep a light on, keep a candle burning and incense burning all throughout the night.
A candle and an incense stick. So someone together. Always has to watch it.
Oh, there's both a candle and an incense. It's not one or the other.
So you kind of have to, one person has to be there and watch it.
Okay. So
that's more for the inner family. That's more or less likely for you to get called to that. But maybe you have Japanese relatives, so maybe there's something to just keep in mind.
So during the funeral, attendees pray for the repose of the soul of the deceased by reading a sutra with monks and burning incense one by one.
And then there is a big thing, and you might have seen that sometimes in anime when people were getting bullied. White chrysanthemums are actually flowers you should not give as a gift because they are heavily associated with funerals. So white chrysanthemums are the flowers that usually are used to decorate the altar where the picture is standing. And then after the funeral, you put the flowers into the coffin when you're saying goodbye.
It's only just now hearing you say that I put those two and two together and I realized, yeah, you're right, that does happen in anime. Yeah,
it does happen in anime. So that's why sometimes when people are getting bullied in their class in anime, for example, you see white chrysanthemums on the desk and stuff like that. Do not give anyone white chrysanthemums by accident. It will be really mean.
Yeah.
It will offend the person, and it probably could also be seen as a threat, I guess. You don't want to do it.
Can they be considered a threat, Shiori?
Oh, yeah.
Chrysanthemums?
Maybe you're just I came to apologize, and you put that there looking very angrily. I don't think that's a good idea.
It's more likely, you are almost dead, kind of.
Oh my God.
So it could be considered a threat.
It's not something like I will kill you kind of thing. It's not that. It's more likely you should be dead.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're not a
alright.
good gift.
No.
Definitely not. 100 out of 100 do not do.
Yeah, stay clear of
accident.
that one. We recommend you steer clear of that one as a gift.
It was a very bad idea.
In most parts of Japan, bodies are cremated, and cremated ashes are then gathered in a small urn by using special chopsticks, which is quite the interesting thing. I think ashes get picked up with chopsticks, and then they are put in an ancestral tomb, but only after spending 49 days with the family.
So the urn will be sitting probably somewhere in the room, maybe next to a picture. So you spend 49 days with that in the house, and then you bring the urn to the family grave. Mentioning the chopsticks, no, that's a big one actually that you need to know. In Japan, you're usually not supposed to hand things from chopstick to chopstick when you're eating, and that is because that is used in the funeral rite when you pass the bones from, I think it's generally the priest that gives them over to the family members, and you have to kind of do that. So that's another reason why you should never pass items or food items from chopstick to chopstick, because it reminds people of this moment.
It feels like, until you know that, until you realize it's offensive, it feels like a fun thing to do, doesn't it? Hey, passing the chopstick to chopstick is this interesting pinchy kind of fun game. No.
Don't
Don't play that game. It'll end badly for you. And
so,
in Japan,
crossing off the white chrysanthemum,
also,
crossing off chopstick.
I'm sure we've
to
spoken
chopstick.
about this before, but in Japan, is it the same as in Chinese culture, when if you're eating rice, you cannot put your chopsticks into the rice because that reminds you of the funeral pyre?
I think that is the same. Yes, that's the same.
So, generally speaking, when you're using chopsticks, just keep in mind chopsticks is used in funerals as well. So there's etiquette that goes along with them.
And especially if it's a bowl of rice and you put it in right on the top so it sticks out, that is more like a funeral thing.
Yeah.
If you have a bowl of rice and you have the chopstick on the side, I think it's not as bad. But if it's boom, right in the middle, not
Ends
good.
badly. So,
So more things you should not do.
So there's
Or do.
similarities between weddings and funerals in Japan in some ways, but in other ways, some of the same things apply and some of them are flipped. So let's go through this.
First of all, which will make this a lot harder for you, we can give you some basics, but be sure that some of these basics will not apply because Japan is very open with religions,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of sub-religions.
Yeah.
So depending on where you go, there might be, again, different rules, because it might be like a sub-religion or like a different branch of that one religion that has very different themes. So do you need to prepare and maybe ask all the people in advance what the actual rules are, because depending on which type of religion the deceased
Which
is,
denomination?
yeah, then it might change altogether, because there are, yes, mainly Buddhist ones, but there are also Christian funerals, and there are also Shinto funerals, and then other sub-religion funerals as well. So be prepared.
That's right. So first things first, how do you dress to go to the funeral in Japan?
So they're mourning clothes, and they come apparently in different grades. So there's 3 ranks of mourning clothes. The good news for the guys is generally if you have a black suit, you're pretty safe.
Same suit you wear to the office, yeah?
I think they have give them a different title. They're slightly different than the office suit. But like a black suit, you're pretty much there. I think there's one that has a longer tail at the back for higher grade mourning. So there's 3 levels. There's the regular mourning clothes, the semi-mourning clothes, and the kind of more casual mourning clothes. So what's important to know is the main mourning clothes, you should not dress in the main mourning clothes if you're not supposed to be the main mourning person. So if you're just attending someone's funeral that is not so well known to you or not so related to you, maybe go more with casual or semi-casual, but the really high upgrade level mourning clothes should only be reserved to probably the inner family members.
Yeah, so at a Japanese funeral, like everything else in Japan, there is a hierarchy to be observed. So chief mourners would include direct family members, yeah? Immediate family members. Are they chief mourners?
What is the name? There's a name. Is it called Mofuku? The name of the mourning clothes. It has a name, doesn't it? Mofuku. Yeah, they're called Mofuku, those main mourning clothes. Now, I once was asked to attend a funeral, and I didn't, in the end, and needed to go there, but because then it turned out it was just the closest family. But when I went to the store, I was like, look, I need to buy probably mourning clothes. What do I do? And the lady in the store took me straight to the suit section. So if you want to do the safe path, even as a girl, go to the suit section, and there are certain mourning suits, which will be black suits. And the lady also said, you can wear this for funerals and weddings. Okay.
You know,
Depending on what you wear underneath, you shouldn't, depending on where you go, you shouldn't wear a white blouse underneath. Underneath should also be a black top.
is that right? But here in our photos, the men have white shirts on underneath their black suits.
Men have white shirts. Women are supposed to have like a black kind of top underneath the blazer jacket. Casual can be like with pants, or it can also be a type of a longer skirt that should be covering your knees though.
But remember, you can only wear the most prestigious mourning clothes if you are a chief mourner. And if it is your wife or parent or child or sibling or something similar who's passed away. Is that correct? Is that what classifies a chief mourner?
All right. And we have nods from Shiori there.
And now, would a secondary chief mourner be a cousin or an auntie or someone along those lines, or a best friend?
There's no secondary.
So there's just the chief mourners, everyone else.
Chief, semi, and abbreviated, and casual.
Yes.
Best friend? Is best friend a chief mourner?
It has to be some like relatives.
Oh, okay. So you shouldn't dress more sadder than the relatives. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's also always good to just double check with the family what's okay. There's more things you're not allowed to do and
Here's
not allowed to.
more verboten things to do at a Japanese funeral. What's bad manners at a funeral, Cathy Cat?
Barefoot. I mean,
that just makes sense, really.
Yeah.
You don't turn up to a funeral in your flip-flops?
You do.
Australians might, to be honest. But put on some shoes. Put on some shoes when you go to the funeral. Yeah.
Seriously. Next one, jewelry other than wedding rings.
I guess that makes sense. If you've got your little bling bling at the funeral, it's a little bit disrespectful, isn't it?
Yeah, apart from wedding rings, it also says pearls. No, pearls are a difficult one. Pearls are acceptable as they symbolize tears. So you might actually be asked, depending on what kind of traditions there are, to wear a string of pearls. Doesn't have to be real pearls, can be fake pearls. But then necklaces with 2 strands of pearls are not acceptable because they symbolize a string of misfortune. So
a string of misfortune?
Yeah, like 2 after, the number 2 is, we're going to come to that later, because something repeating on number 2 is actually not a good thing at funerals either. So just, if you have some fake pearls and you get asked to wear some, just 1 chain, not 2 or 3 or many or something blingy like that.
Yeah, that's a very bad funeral choice, what you got on right now.
I mean, the whole outfit is definitely a no.
It's probably a bad plan.
They're definitely not for that.
Not ideal.
Next one, nail polish.
Nail polish. So even if you're attending a goth funeral, maybe keep the nail polish off.
Yeah, no nail polish. Yeah. Furs and crocodile leather.
Okay. Well, it makes sense. It looks a bit gaudy anyway, doesn't it? You're going to wear that to the funeral parlor? It's a bit much.
Yeah, that, and also it reminds people of killing, so you shouldn't,
Yes, fair enough.
Shiny fabrics.
Again, you don't want to turn up at the funeral bling bling.
So yours is kind of like shimmery, shiny, so that one would probably also be a no.
A bit offensive. Leave it at home, Ladybeard. Put on your funeral garb.
Yep.
All right.
Interesting is a high ponytail.
Yeah, again, it's just too flashy. It's too bling bling.
Yeah, I think both of our hairstyles would definitely be a no.
Definitely. Keep your hair low. Keep your tails below your ear line.
Don't keep it too flashy and too fun. And now, that's clothes items, but we haven't even reached the level of language and abhorrent words you should not use.
As we've discussed before, Japanese is a language that revolves around politeness, and the words you use change depending on the level of politeness you're using to talk to the other party. At a funeral, in general, there's language that must be avoided at all costs.
So nearer at the advanced level of how to not make everyone feel uncomfortable during a funeral. So words that are repeated over and over again are not good. We had that at the wedding episode. So if you listen to that.
At a wedding, you can't say words that repeat because that gives everyone the impression of things happening twice. So this wedding will end in divorce and there'll be another wedding. So that's bad luck at a wedding. Why is it bad luck at a funeral?
Here it's because it's associated with misfortune twice over. No one wants that.
No,
you already have that sadness.
We're already sad.
So you don't want it again.
You don't want double
sadness. So therefore
sadness.
you shouldn't use a word that repeats in itself again, which is generally a lot of onomatopoeia, but also other words like kazane gazane, which means again in a way, so you can hear that it sounds similar. Or kaesu gaesu is also again. You don't want to have that happen again. Mata mata means again. Kurushimu.
But that's not a repeating word at all.
Kurushimu, doesn't repeat, but it means to suffer.
To suffer, so we'd rather, minimize that.
Mayo
Ayo,
To get
lost. Yep, and a big one.
That's a big one. I mean, that's a very clear one, though. That's ukabarenai, meaning not like literally translated, it means doesn't float. But what it actually means is that person won't make it, or like someone will not make it to heaven. Like float up into heaven. So you don't want to say that at all.
To see why that might be considered problematic at a funeral.
Yes.
Yeah, so... I'm so sorry. This really... Ladybeard's usual role as color commentator on this podcast.
Yeah, it's so somber. I was just literally thinking that.
This is the most out of place
Somber.
I've ever felt whilst holding a microphone.
But you are actually wearing black today, surprisingly so. So that, at
That
least your style works a little bit with it. A little bit of black in there.
The pink. That might be considered a little bit inappropriate at a funeral.
But at least you're a little bit more somber.
A little more somber than usual.
A little more somber.
Dear me, this is actually quite hard work to remain this somber. Let's keep going. Let's get to the end of these rules.
There's a choice of words regarding on religion.
Yeah.
So what you guys don't know, what even Japanese people don't know, that a lot of words are actually belong to the Buddhist religion. So if you're going to a wedding that is not a Buddhist, not wedding, I'm so sorry. If you're going to a funeral that is not a Buddhist funeral, you should not use Buddhist words.
That's correct.
There. So things like ojo, jobutsu, kuyo, and meifuku are words that apparently belong to the Buddhist religion, and you should not use them if you are invited to a Christian wedding in Japan. Oh my god, funeral.
So Buddhist funerals in Japan, commonly you're going to be burning some incense. So in Buddhism, the smoke and the fragrance from burning incense have various meanings, such as being food for the deceased or a guide to the afterlife. So there are various ways to burn the incense, but here are some of the most common ways. Number one.
Yeah, if you go for I think the proper funeral ceremony, the incense will not be a stick. If you guys are thinking of the stick right now, it will be a powder.
Powder?
It will be a type of incense powder.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, me neither. And I'm glad we haven't seen it, both of us. That's probably a good thing.
So first you're going to go to the altar and you're going to bow to the bereaved family, and then you're going to bow to the photo of the deceased. You're going to clasp your hands together once.
Only once.
Only once? Then that's incense use number one, right?
Exactly. Now you pick up the incense powder with your thumb, index finger, and middle finger, and you press the incense to the level of your forehead. You bring it down to your center, and then you put it back.
And you bow again to the photo of the deceased, and hold your palms together. You step back, you bow to the photo of the deceased, and return to your chair.
I think if you did it like that, people will think that you really looked it up before you actually went.
Yeah, but good job. Because it's not something you want to do wrongly.
Exactly.
So,
and if you're totally lost, there's just an extra thing. If you're totally lost, have a look around you at the Japanese people around you and see how they do it. Again, it might be a different style depending on where you go.
And keeping in mind, if you're not a chief mourner, then everyone else will go mourning first. So you'll get an opportunity to watch them do it before you.
First, the main mourners, then the family, then the close friends, and then acquaintances or people who are not really that closely connected.
I was about to say the Klingons, the extras. These are terrible words to be using regarding a bunch of friends at a funeral. They're terrible words to be using. Ladybeard's losing his sombriety. Let's go back.
Back to sombriety. Okay, there is another thing as a funeral offering, the koden. Remember that we said when you go to a wedding, yes, I'm allowed to say wedding this time, you have to make sure that you buy the right type of envelope, because if the wrong type of envelope will have beautiful decorations. It would be white and black strings all around it, and that will actually be a money offering for funerals and not for weddings. You don't want to mistake them both.
No, you don't.
Don't want to bring the funeral one to a wedding. You don't want to bring the wedding one to a funeral.
That will really be frowned upon.
That for sure.
Yep. So
yeah, they call it as okoire. It seemed to be it used to sometimes be incense or flowers, but generally right now or nowadays it's more practice to put money in there so it helps the family cover the expenses of the funeral.
Now, very interesting.
Koden.
Very interesting. We discussed in the wedding episode, when you go to a wedding, you need to get brand new fresh bills. Yeah? So you go to the ATM or the bank and organize freshly minted bills for the wedding. Opposite the funeral, you specifically want to not use brand new bills.
That is something we were talking about off camera because it was surprising. Because generally, if you go to a shrine, you have to get fresh bills. They have to look like they just got printed from like the bank. You actually go to the bank to get those. So they look pristine. Same thing for weddings. They should look pristine. Don't grab just, a little bit of money you had in your wallet. But in this situation, it has to be the opposite.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like you had prepared it in advance and you had anticipated the bad news. So right now, Japan has printed brand fresh new notes that are freshly out.
A new design on the notes, that's right.
The bills are all looking different. You don't want to bring one of those sparkly new bills to that.
No, bring your old bills. Bring the bills you had stashed under your mattress for 3 years.
Something like that. Yeah. And if you happen to only have new bills on you, then you need to kind of crinkle them up and make them look like they're old.
Yeah, that's yep. And also, you got to be careful with the amounts that you bring because even numbers or divisible numbers are associated with the meaning of cutting connections with the deceased individual.
So the numbers are also negative. What is a good number to give them, Shiori? What is a good number that people will give? Because at weddings, I think it was like 30,000 yen. So you couldn't split it by 2. So those 2 will never be apart.
I see. But here we got 2 is bad, 4 is bad, all the even numbers are bad, 9 is bad. So what's not bad?
Usually, if you're not too close to them, then it has to be 5,000 yen.
5,000 yen? Okay, you can't split that. That makes sense.
And the next amount is 1,000 yen.
Okay.
But hang on, but 10 is an even number.
We call it 1,000,000.
Oh, I see. So it's 1. I see. It's 1 10,000th. Okay, I see. It's 1,000. Okay, I see.
Okay.
I understand. 9 should also be avoided because that's associated with the word suffering.
Which is also one of the words you shouldn't be using at the wedding in the first place. So
that's right.
We're going there. Now,
so, and your bills, you got to fold them in a particular way. You got to fold them and put them in the fukusa, which is
the envelope.
The envelope for the incense.
Special envelope. But so you've given the koden, so the money for the family, and you've done the right bowing and with the incense and such. At the end, either you might receive it before you go, or you might have to get it another way. But generally at funerals, you do get some purifying salt afterwards.
The salt. Please tell us about the salt, Cathy Cat, because this confuses me.
So sometimes at a funeral, people are given a bag of salt, and this is used to purify yourself after that. You kind of, it's already a dark matter, and people will be thinking also, quite dark thoughts, and it's supposed to make sure that all that darkness you kind of leave behind, you purify yourself. You've probably been in an area where there's been maybe in the house, there might have been death, and you kind of want to rid yourself of that. So before returning home, before stepping through your front door in the house, you should pinch some salt and apply it like on your chest, on your back, and on your feet. I think like throwing salt over your shoulder, we also have that a little bit in the West, so it's not that far and not that difficult to understand if you ever heard about that one.
Yeah, we do, don't we? What is that we do in the West? It's for anti-bad luck or something, yeah?
Yeah, like throw a bit of salt over your shoulder, kind of darkness, bad things. Yeah. So make sure that you have, if you don't have a little bit of salt, what if you don't get a little bit of salt before you enter the door? Maybe if someone's in the house, they might bring out normal salt that you used to spice your food up with and just sprinkle a little bit on you. If you don't have that much time, some people just put it over their feet. Yeah. Right, so you don't bring anything of that darkness home.
That's fair enough. And we'll light the mood a little bit. A new trend that's emerged in Japan, living funerals. So you have your funeral while you're still alive.
Yeah, some people recently have decided to have a funeral party while they're not dead yet.
Which is something. I mean, similar to like how some people say instead of a funeral when everyone's, they want to have a wake and celebrate their life as opposed to mourning their death. Some people in Japan have started saying, you know what, I should have my funeral when I'm still alive because that way I can get everybody together and they can say nice things about me when I can hear it.
Yeah, and then they also have maybe the chance to bring the entire family together. Because let's be honest, in Japan, everyone will keep saying we're so busy, we don't have time. Yeah. And especially a lot of older people in Japan feel quite sad and lonely recently. Yeah. So if they want to actually bring the entire family together and they know they cannot do it because everyone will say they have work and whatever, having a live funeral is a reason to actually get the entire family together. So in that sense, it might be actually a smart choice to make sure you get to see everyone one last time, because otherwise people have excuses. And might not turn up. So this is actually a chance for them to meet, interact with their family. And it's very similar, a little bit like the wedding. And also you can have then the awake funeral the way you want it, with all your wishes included.
Yep. You hire the MC. You can get him dressed any which way you like.
Yeah.
You can get whatever proceedings you would like to have. You can have it at your living funeral. You can do whatever you like.
Exactly. So, for example, the ceremony begins with an MC. You hire an MC, a person on the mic. Then they will remark something about the organizer, him or herself. So the organizer, beziehungsweise, that was German. The organizer, the person who is still alive, get to say why they wanted to have their I am still alive funeral. And then they can give their reasons for having this funeral. And then there will be a video or photo slide similar to the wedding of their life. So they celebrate their life, maybe play some music, so everyone can share those memories together.
That's good fun.
Yeah, and then they do speeches by the representatives. Again, similar to a wedding. People give speeches, friends, there's entertainment, songs, dinner. It's very similar to a Japanese wedding.
Except it's a pre-death.
Yeah, it's like
a pre-death ceremony.
Glad you lived kind of type.
Yeah, it's good.
And then the MC comes in the end, gives closing remarks. The organizer sends off the attendees, and the event is over.
Yeah, and so a lot of these ceremonies are not associated with religion in any way. It's just a party. So vibes are good, and everyone's having a nice time.
It's a good time. Yeah, it's a good time. And I think those are sometimes also done to lower the burden on the family afterwards, because obviously once the worst thing has happened, that's when the family will be suffering anyways, and then they have to arrange flowers and the party and the event and all of that. So this also helps a lot of families to not have to worry about that later. So all of the stuff that would usually happen later is then partially, I think, omitted and just made easier for the family.
How are you feeling about living funerals, Cathy Cat? You considering a living funeral?
A living funeral? Are you considering one?
I want to do one like next week. I want to just hang out and have a nice time, you know? Like, hey,
So, hey.
God, tell me I'm awesome, everyone.
Yeah, tell me I'm awesome.
Here's a
You
bunch
do
of
some pro
photos of me.
wrestling.
Exactly.
Just wrestle someone on stage.
I would feel
celebrate
like
you're
I
alive.
feel like a Roman emperor. Everyone worship me and party. All right, now, sorry, back to somberness. Now, okay, so...
You can't hold the non-somberness for long.
I'm sorry, I really can't. But now we've made it to a list of verboten language at a Japanese
We're going
funeral.
back to the somberness. Exactly. So at the living funeral, again, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to say any negative words.
Say anything you like.
In a actual,
In a post-living funeral.
post-living funeral, things are a little bit more difficult. So there's a couple of words you shouldn't say, like tabi tabi, shiba shiba.
Which means often.
Yeah, so instead, there's some words now here. We're giving you some words you can say instead. Yoku, shigeku, itsumo. Those ones are okay. So those ones are like the good words to use instead. Another one would be kurigurimo or juju.
Which means be careful or please in certain contexts.
And then you can say jubun ni yoku dozo. These are just words you can use instead. I think there's one that people say iyo. Masu masu. Those ones you sometimes hear. Also, that's not good to say.
Means more and more. Don't say that.
Yeah, sarani motto. Those kind of words are a little bit better to use. There's quite a lot of words you can't use. But what I found very interesting is that similar to a wedding, you cannot use the word izogashi, which you will learn as one of your first couple of words once you pass the N5, because izogashi means busy.
Yep. Use it all the time in Japan.
You're not allowed to say that at a wedding, and you're not allowed to say that at a funeral. So instead, you can say taiyo.
Yep.
Taiyochu.
Taiyochu.
So another one. I mean, we said the not going to heaven and stuff. Of course,
almost all the words you can't say involve repetition or something happening on it over and over again.
Yeah,
or so one more time or something like that.
If you like the onomatopoeia words like paku paku, or there's a lot of cute onomatopoeia words. Just don't use them.
Just don't use them.
Try not to use them for the duration of that funeral.
And interestingly, you cannot say when they were alive.
Yeah, you cannot say 生きていた頃, that one, and 生存中. So instead, you're supposed to say 生前 or 元気だった頃, when they were still full of energy.
When they were healthy. Yes.
So,
dear me.
I mean, probably it's there to not remind people of
of the incident at hand.
Try to phrase it a little bit more delicately.
And our last one makes a bit of sense. You can't say this one. Sudden death.
Yeah, you don't really want to say that.
Kyushi. We're leaving that one out.
Exactly. And instead you can say kyusei or totsuzen no koto. So those kind of things are like, that's a little bit for the advanced Japanese. But hey, you're already super prepped with a lot of like basics. But then again, always double check with the family, and they might have different rules. They might have different ideas, and they might maybe be surprisingly lax and just go, no, don't worry about it so much as long as you turn up. Other ones might be like, no, we want you to wear a pearl necklace, please, when you come. So just make sure you're prepped for that.
I went to a Japanese funeral in my first year here.
You did?
I was so paranoid about doing something wrongly. And when the ceremony all seemed to go fine. And there's not much expression of emotion. Everyone's being very good about holding back the tears and so forth. But what I found very interesting was we got through the funeral bit, open casket so you can see the deceased and everything. We get through that. Everyone leaves the funeral parlor, and then you go outside with kind of a, there's people, you have drinks and food and so forth. And the vibe of that was totally different. The vibe was, it's a Ladybeard with us today! And people are passing around my photo book and whatnot. Look at this, you crazy foreigner. Yeah. This was right after a dearly beloved's funeral.
Oh, wow. Okay, so like while everyone was having like drinks and foods at the wake, they were like passing around your photo book.
Yeah, we're all having sushi and whatnot, and everyone's a lot of the people there were having hard drinks, and I'm not sure. That seems to me like it's not necessarily a common occurrence.
Was it someone in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, the deceased was not, but family members were in the building.
Oh, maybe that's why then.
It could be why. But the whole thing really struck me as surprising. I thought we'd very somberly eat our food and very respectfully go home. And that wasn't the case at all. They passed around the photo book. Look at this photo. Look at this photo. Yeah, crazy guy. Lots of that. And I'm like, whoa. Damn.
That was a surprise. Did you have to do the bowing to the picture with the incense holding though?
Yep, did all that.
All right, so you said you don't know how it looked like, maybe you remember?
I think I've seen it, but keep in mind I've been in Japan for 6 months or something at this point.
Yeah,
so
everything was new then.
I just got told I was the very last person to go, and I got told I was with the person I was with that said just do the same thing as me.
Okay.
So I was just standing next to them, just looking over and just doing the exact same thing as them for the whole thing. So
just copied and made it through, and then suddenly everyone is passing around your photo bug.
Yeah, it was something. I got to tell you, it was not what I expected for my first year in Japan, but that's happened.
But good thing is you had Japanese people to guide you through that. So right. I hope that there will be an opportunity also for a couple of you guys, in case the worst is happening or you were invited for whatever reason, that you have someone to guide you through. And if not, then maybe talk with someone, say, hey, I don't quite know what I'm doing. Can you help me out? And I'm sure someone will be open to help you out.
So, with that in mind, I was about to say good luck when attending your first Japanese funeral, but that's not really
sure
how the sentiment we should wrap this up with.
Yeah, but we equipped you with some basic emergency skills. Like I said, keep looking into the matter, though, depending on what religion it will be.
And straight up, look, if you're at a Japanese funeral, you're obviously close enough to a Japanese person to be invited to a deceased Japanese person's funeral. So, be cool, don't be a douche, and just, follow along and you should be cool.
Exactly. And if you're now curious, because there's a lot of connections to the wedding episode, if you haven't listened to that one, it might just give you like a different insight into the rules. Because I think now, having done the funeral episode and the wedding episode, a lot of things seem to fall into place. Mm-hmm. Like they're not repeating words or like...
Yeah, it kind of seems like a huge part of the wedding ceremony is ensuring the marriage doesn't end. And then, of course, a funeral is signifying that the life has ended.
But it should not happen again, kind of. That's like the next thing. In this case, it's like, again,
you don't
want them to marry again.
Die,
you don't want misfortune to happen again.
To die, then him to die.
We want
not what we need.
to protect ourselves against misfortune, kind of thing.
So,
I feel like I need some salt after this episode.
Let's get to throw all the salt over our shoulders. Hey, this has been highly enjoyable.
The next
we promise the next one will be more fun.
Exactly, but you learned something. Hopefully, you take that away with you.
Learned a lot. So, hey, high five for etiquette. We'll see you next time on Cat with Beard. Goodbye.
Bye.